Hi everybody, welcome to Fun Friday. My name's Chris Holt and today I'll be introducing you to Adobe Dimensions. This is one of the easier Adobe programs. We use it quite often in fashion management and marketing to brand up both items and packaging. Today we're going to be having a little bit of fun. I'm going to get a beer can, I'm going to brand it up with the Black Sabbath logo, and we're going to create a sort of green witchy type beer. This program is really useful to knock up some prototypes really quickly for both PowerPoint and your reports. I hope you enjoy it. Bye for now. Adobe Dimensions is this little DN here. So if you just click on that, it'll take you into Dimensions. It's home screen. We are going to create a new project, so we'll just click on this Create New up here to the left. And this takes us into the area where we work in Dimensions. So I'll just quickly take you through the tools on the left-hand side. So to start with, we've got Selection Tool, which is kind of the same as in all the Adobe programs where you click on an object and can move it around. The one below it is the Magic Wand tool. Now this is if you have a really complex object, you can select certain parts of it. Below that is the Sampler tool. So if you've got several objects which you're working on at the same time, you can sample colours and graphics from one object to another object. The four below that are all camera tools. So we'll go through those in a second. And then onto the Zoom tool where you can zoom in on an object, and the Hand tool where you can move it around. These are sort of familiar to anyone who's used Adobe, as they're in all the different programs. Okay, so we're going to put an object onto this plane. I'm going to start with a beverage can, as we're going to be working on a beer can. And all you do is just click down on it and drag it onto the plane and then release it, and it'll appear on the plane. Okay, so there you've got your can. You can drag as many objects as you want onto the plane at the same time, so you can work on numerous objects if you want to, but I'm just going to work on one at the moment. Okay, so I'll get rid of that. Okay, now I'm I think entirely just working with my mouse in here. I don't really need to use anything else. So going back to these tools I mentioned, the camera tools, if I click on the object, you can start playing around with it. So you've got an orbit tool where you can sort of orbit around the object. The next one down is the pan tool. So you can sort of pan around in the plane. The one below that is a dolly tool, so it sort of brings you forward and backwards. I'll just click on that again. Okay, so that brings it right forward, right backwards. And then you've got the horizon tool, which I don't actually use very often, so I tend to avoid that. And up here you've got two more camera tools, and this one here is really useful. It's Zoom to fit selection, so I'll use that in a minute, but first I just want to show you a few tools on the actual tin. So I'm going to go back and click on the Selection tool, and then with these tools here you've got the Move tool, which are these little arrows which you can move the tin around the pane. I mean, you could just grab the tin and actually move it that way as well. But if you want to be quite accurate, if you use these little movements there, and you can actually see, can you see while I'm moving it, you can actually see the length of area I'm moving it. And then you have these little square tools, which allow you to change the dimensions of the object. So if I wanted, let's say, a pint-sized tin, I could click on the square and then I could just make it bigger. And I could make it fatter as well, but I don't want to do that. And then if you hover over this, you can see you get different things. So you could start to rotate the tin towards you if you wanted to have it at a slight angle. Okay, so this is really useful. And now I'm going to go up to the camera and I'm going to click the one I told you about. It's called zoom to fit selection. So that opens this up and it brings the can very close so you can work on it quite easily. The top left hand side of the screen, you can see filtered by up here, and that is filtered by different assets which you can see up in front of you. I mean, we've got a few of those there. They go down a lot with free ones. You can also search for further assets, which are up here in the little cross. If you click on that, it allows you to go to Adobe stock, where there are some free assets, but quite a few you have to pay for. But we're just for today going to stick with the ones that come free with the package. Then you can go on in filtered by to click on materials. So here you've got loads of different materials which you can put into your object. So for instance, if we click on the object to select it, we can click on, say, metal, for instance, and the can will become metal. Or indeed plastic. Sometimes plastic's better than metal in a strange sort of way because the reflections aren't quite so harsh. So I'm going to click on plastic. Then the next one along is lighting. So at a later stage, we might decide to change the lighting of this object. I won't do it just at the moment, but you just click on one of these and the lighting will change. And the final filter by is backgrounds. So loads of different backgrounds which we can put in at the end. And you can also put in different sort of logos as well. But I quite often bring in my own backgrounds, and I'll show you how to do that later. Tool menu on the right hand side of the screen. So if you go to the right hand side of the screen, you can see you've got environment, environmental light, camera, but what we're going to concentrate on to start with is the beverage can. So it might be shut like that. If it is, just open it up and you'll get the different components of the can. So you've got the ring pull, the liquid, which is all this bit on the outside, and the can itself. And it's the can we're going to concentrate on. So if we highlight that, then we go over to the little arrow. Do you see right over to the right hand side? And we click on that. And that brings up various properties. But what we're really going to concentrate on is the color. So we've got base color here. And if you just click on it, it brings up this little color chart, or you can click in if you want it to be green or something else. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to make my can quite black, okay? But you can either just click on an area like that, or you can just drag around so you can see all the different colors. I'm going to take it down here and have it fairly black, okay? And you just click anywhere outside the square when you want to close that. So we'll close that. The can kind of looks like that at the moment, okay? Something else I often do is I turn off the ground plane. I don't particularly want the shadow because at the end I'm going to turn it into a PNG, and it's easier not to have the shadow. I just want the object, and I'll probably put the object into InDesign and move it around with other objects, and then I can place them exactly where I want it to be. So to turn off the ground plane, you just go down here and click on there, and you see the shadow underneath has now disappeared. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a few graphics. So if I click on the can, because the graphics are going to go on the can, I click there. That selected the can, and then you can go File, and you can go to wherever you have your graphics. So we go down to import, because we're going to import a graphic onto here. And then we're going to place graphics on model. Okay. Right, so my graphics are all in here. I'm going to go for Black Sabbath Free, which is a white version of the Black Sabbath logo, and put that on this. I'll just open it. And as you can see, the graphics now being put on. Then you can just play around with the graphic till you're happy with it. So I can stretch it out a bit. I can bring it out a bit that way. I can maybe bring it up a bit if I want it up a bit. And I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. So that's, and then I click off to put the graphic there. So that's my first graphic on there. Then I'm going to go back and put in another graphic. So I'm going to click on the can again to make that selected. Then I'm going up to File, Import, Place Graphic on Model. And I think I'm going to use one of these skull graphics I grabbed earlier. So I'm just going to click on that. Is that the one I want? Or it could be this one here. Let's try that one. Okay. And I'm going to open, and actually I'm going to pull that right down to the bottom of the can like that, and then pull it out a little bit as well. And that's kind of how I want the graphics to look on the can. The can as it is. What I might do is go back to Assets. So if I go back up to the top near Filtered By and just click on the first one, the little box, that'll take us back to Assets. And actually in a bit I'm going to put a bit of a splash of beer onto this can. But first I'm going to move the can a little bit. So I'm going to just move it away a touch so I can see what I'm doing better. Okay, so I've gone on to the camera bit. And then I'm just going to click on the can to select it. So I'm going back up to my selection tool, click on the can. And what I might try and do is just rotate the can a little bit because I want a little bit of a splash coming out of it. And so the can kind of needs to be at a bit of an angle for that to kind of work. So let's do something like that, maybe. Deselect it, and I'll go down and see if I can find the splash in these assets. Oh, there are a couple here, so let's try this one. So we've got this splash here. I'm just going to have to do it so it's just coming off the back of the can like that. Okay, and I just want to change the color of this this splash because my beer is going to be kind of a green beer, I think I said. So if I click on it, click on the splash which comes up behind the can, and then we'll go back and find the colour of this splash and try and find the sort of green that would work all right. So let's just hover this over the green a bit and just find something that's a bit sort of a bit green but a bit translucent at the same time. Yeah, I think that'll do all right. And then we'll just click on that. So you kind of can see that going on. There's a bit of a flick of green beer coming out of the can. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off this ground plane. So I'm just going to go up to Image, View, Toggle Grid. So it's got rid of that background image. Okay. So what I'm going to try and do now is just select both things. So just dragging over like you do in all Adobe programs. And then I'm going to go on to Object and I'm going to group it. It doesn't always work as well as you'd hope when you group objects in dimensions, but hopefully this will work reasonably well. The item's now selected and grouped. So it kind of looks a bit like that. I'm going to move it to the side of the screen, but it'll just show you how the grouping doesn't always quite work how you would hope. Okay, can you see that's sort of moving across, but it's left the pattern back here, the splash. So what I might have to do is sort of rotate the screen a little bit just to get the splash hopefully back into position. Okay, so if we just rotate it, and again I'll sort of move the whole object and pull it across a bit, pull it right over to the side of the screen, and then rotate it a little bit again to put the splash back where I want it to be. Okay, so we've got it over there, a little bit of splash coming out of the beer, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and import an image. So you could use one of the images over here to the left hand side. I don't know, perhaps put something like that behind it, but actually that's not what I want. So I'm going to go back a stage and I'm going to import my own image. So I'm going to go to Find, Import, and Image as Background. So Image as Background, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find an image. I've got an image here of witches, and I'm going to open it. And there, so I've got my sort of image of witches to sort of work with my beer can. So it's not positioned quite how I want it at the moment. So I might just, again, just grab the beer, maybe pull it over here to the side of the screen, rotate it a little bit just to get the splash. I don't want it as far behind as previously. And again, it's just a question of I'm using the selection tool, just pulling it over to the side of the screen to where you might actually want it. I just want it here maybe. Just so it's a kind of advert with this witch. I'm going to rotate it again a little bit just to get the beer behind. And actually that's about right. That's kind of where I want it. So I'm just going to unselect it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to render the picture. I've got it kind of how I want it for my advert for the Black Sabbath beer. The green splash of beer coming out of it. It's all looking good. It just hasn't been rendered, so it's not going to be quite as good as a rendered picture. So to render it, you just go up to the left-hand side, and you've got design here, which is where we're in at the moment. You've got home if you want to come out of the screen, and you've got render. And I'm going to go on to render. And then you can do high quality or low quality. I think if you've got a fast enough processor on your computer, it's always worth going for the high quality. You can either turn it into a PNG, or you can do it straight into Photoshop where you've got all the layers, which I kind of like to do because then you can continue tweaking it if you want. So that's what we'll do for the time being. I'm just going to give it a name, and I think I'll call it Black Sabbath. Okay, and then I'm going to render. Now this can take a variety of time depending how in depth the image is. But I will quickly go back to it, but I'll just show you to start with. You can see the image beginning to render, okay? And it's just getting better and better. And by the time it's finished, it's going to look quite good. Finally, we have the rendered edition of my Black Sabbath beer poster. Notice it's a lot cleaner now that it's been rendered. So over here you've got the file name, you've got the quality. Just to recap, we turned this into a Photoshop file rather than PNG. And if you click on the bottom, you get these little three arrows come up, or sorry, dots I should say. And if you click on those, you can either find out where it is in the Finder, so that's where it's been put on the computer. I can see up here it's actually gone into desktop. But actually what I would do is to edit it straight in Photoshop. So if you just click on that, it'll open up Photoshop, take your poster straight into Photoshop. And as you can see, over to the right-hand side, you've got all the different layers which you could work on. So I could put in some text or whatever else I wanted to do in Photoshop, and then save it in whatever format I wanted it in. So, you know, just maybe go File, Save As. You could flatten it if you wanted it to be a smaller image, but I'm not too worried about that just at the moment. And I'm just going to save it into a Photoshop image so I can carry on editing it later if I want to. And then just press Save. And I'll get to replace it. Okay. And that is it. That is the very basics of Dimensions. It's a really great program, fun to use, and very, very easy to pick up. Hi, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Adobe Dimensions. I find it quite a lot of fun to play around with. It's really easy to use once you get the hang of it. If you have any questions, my name's Chris Holt. Please get in touch with me at Holt, Holt, .s1@uca.ac.uk. See you all soon, I hope. Bye for now.